All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to I think it's the 10th match in round one of the JCSA High Schools Debate Competition for 2025. My name is Jermaine Bart. I'll be the chair adjudicator, and I'll allow now to have themselves introduced the panelists, beginning with Matthew White.
Hello, all. As you would have heard, my name is Matthew White. I'm the Wellness Support Specialist here with the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment. I'm delighted to be a panelist this afternoon, and I hope that we have a rigorous exchange of ideas.
Thank you very much, Matthew. I share that desire as well. All right, Diego, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity of allowing me to be here as a panelist. And I'm looking forward also to this debate, mindful of the fact that this discourse is particularly beneficial, national significance, specifically with the public sector. So I'm very much looking forward for the contributions for the motion, as well as your opinions that you'll have against the motion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Diego. And I too share those sentiments. All right. So Diego spoke about an interesting topic that's to be debated, a motion that's to be engaged with. Matthew, tell us, what is the motion for this match?
The motion that we have for this match reads, this House prefers a policy of a shared pool of parental leave days to the direct expansion of paternity leave benefits. Just to repeat, this House prefers a policy of a shared pool of parental leave days to the direct expansion of paternity leave benefits.
All right. Thank you so very much, Matthew. And the teams contesting this debate are Montego High School in proposition, and they're going up against Ocho High School in opposition. All right. I'm suspecting that there are no questions. Are there any questions, debaters? Oh, yes. I should remind our viewing audience of the rules for the debate. So there are 3 speakers on each team. The first speaker will speak for 7 minutes, the second speaker for 6 minutes, and the third speaker called the reply as well for 5 minutes. We'll have 2 periods of cross-examination. After the first pair of debaters' presentation, we'll have 1 segment of cross-examination there, and then another segment after the second pair of speakers have made their presentations. There are 2 periods of protected minutes. The first and last minutes of each speech is protected. Well, not each of the first 4 speeches have periods of protected time. Protected time means that there are no points of information allowed in the first minute or the last minute of the presentation. In the case of the reply speakers, that's the third speaker on each team, we will not permit at all any points of information. All right. After we have completed the first segment of cross-examination, we will pause for 1 minute, and then we'll resume with the reply speaker from team opposition first, followed by that from team proposition. That's opposition Ocho High School, proposition Montego Bay High School. All right. Are there any questions?
No, sir.
There be no questions, and it seems like we're eager to get this match started. It's late in the afternoon after all on a Friday. All right, so we now call upon the first speaker from Montego Bay High School, representing the proposition, to open this debate. Please be reminded that you are to monitor the chat to get the signals as it relates to where you are in relation to time. Okay, so you may begin. Montego Bay High School. Here.
It's 3 a.m. A young mother cradles her newborn, exhausted. Her body is still healing, her mind clouded with fatigue, yet she still pushes to stay awake long enough to feed her baby. Her husband wants to help, but his parental leave ended almost as soon as it began. 20 days. 20 days given to bond with his child. 20 days to support his wife through recovery. 20 days to adjust to the shift of becoming a parent. Now, he is back at work, gone for long hours each day while she faces the relentless demands of new motherhood alone. The early excitement of welcoming a baby has faded, replaced by exhaustion, isolation, and quiet desperation. This isn't just one family story. It is a reflection of a larger issue, an issue we have ignored for far too long. The human cost of outdated and insufficient parental leave policies. This house says no more. This house stands here in absolute support of the move. This house prefers a policy of shared pool of parental leave days to direct expansion of paternity leave benefits. Ladies and gentlemen, the esteemed panel of judges, and my fellow opponents, a pleasant morning to you all. As the proposition, we define the motion to mean that Jamaica should adopt a flexible shared paternal leave system that gives both parents equal access and shared control over how the leave is used. Our model proposes that Jamaica replaces the current fixed system of 12 weeks for mothers and 20 days for fathers with a shared pool, including a reserved portion for each parent to encourage participation. Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize that the proposition fights for a shared pool of leave days. That is, for the total number of leave days to be assigned jointly to both parents who can decide together how to divide or share that time. We do not fight merely for the increase in numbers of days available exclusively to fathers without changing the existing structures for mothers. Allow me, as first proposition speaker, to lay out the foundational arguments of how such a shared pool promotes gender equality and economic efficiency. My second speaker will then expand on the practical side, showing how shared leave gives families greater flexibility and supports equal career progression for both parents. Finally, my third speaker will summarize our main points and further invalidate the arguments brought up by our opponents. For decades, parental leave policies in the Caribbean have reflected a single assumption, that child care is the mother's job. According to the International Labour Organization's 2024 Caribbean Labour Report, women in Jamaica are entitled to 12 weeks of maternity leave, but only 8 of those weeks are paid. Fathers, on the other hand, receive at most 20 days under the public sector scheme. This disparity reinforces that outdated idea that mothers are the natural caregivers while fathers are mere helpers. It also creates a culture where employers see women as unreliable workers and men as permanent employees. And so it is no surprise to see the result of Statica's 2025 Gender Equality Index showing that women in Jamaica earn only 62% of what men earn, leaving a wage gap of nearly 38%. This means that when a woman leaves work for months to care for a child, her career and income both fall further behind while the man continues uninterrupted. If we keep expanding only paternity leave, we reinforce that gender division. But if we share the leave, we redefine it. A shared pool will not only disrupt that imbalance, but also treat both parents as equal caregivers and allow families to choose what works best. We've seen this succeed elsewhere, like in Sweden, where parents share 480 days of paid parental leave with 90 days reserved for each parent. The 300 remaining can be divided. Because of this structure, fathers now take 27% of total leave days, a dramatic increase that normalizes men's involvement in childcare, as reported by Le Monde, a French newspaper company. Similarly, Eurofound's 2018 research on European family policies found that in Germany, the introduction of shared parental leave increased fathers' participation from 21% in 2018 to 34% in 2014. This shows that when you change the system, you change the culture. Fathers bond more deeply with their children, and mothers return to work without fear of falling behind. Beyond equality, shared parental leave is simply more efficient. According to the Organization of Economic Cooperations and Development, countries that combine maternity and paternity leave entitlements into one shared system have lower administrative costs and higher usage rates. In places like Iceland and Sweden, more than 85% of fathers take their share of leave. Meanwhile, in countries like Poland and Austria, where paternity leave remains separate and poorly paid, less than 10% of fathers actually use it. A shared policy avoids duplication, reduces paperwork, and ensures that government resources benefit entire families rather than just one parent. For Jamaica, this means we could modernize our outdated system without drastically increasing costs. Instead of paying separately for expanded paternity and maternity leave, the government would fund one unified program, fairer, simpler, and more sustainable. Now, opposition may argue that fathers won't take their share of leave, even if it is available, but the numbers simply do not cannot lie. In Sweden, once a non-transferable father quota of 90 days was introduced, male uptake skyrocketed. Jamaica could adopt a similar system, allowing flexibility while reserving a minimum number of days specifically for fathers. Others may claim it is too expensive. Yet, as the OECD points out, shared systems actually lower long-term costs by improving retention and productivity when both parents can share the caregiving burden. Mothers return to work sooner, families rely less on welfare support, and the overall economy gains a stronger, more balanced workforce. Ultimately, this debate isn't just about policy, it is about what kind of society we want to build. Do we want to continue a system that sidelines fathers and overburdens mothers? Or are we willing to step out of our comfort zone and defy the status quo, introducing a system where both parents stand equal in the eyes of the law, both parents stand equal in the eyes of the workplace, both parents would stand equal in the eyes of their children? A shared pool of parental leave gives families freedom of choice, strengthens gender equality, and improves economic stability. It tells fathers, your child needs you too, and mothers, your career matters as much as his. The proposition versus momentarily.
Thank you very much for that fine speech. I now call upon the first speaker on team opposition, that's from Ocho Rios High School, to present their speech. Here.
My opponents may want you to believe that a shared pool promotes gender equality and flexibility. But the reality is a shared pool does not guarantee equality. It only creates the appearance of choice. True equality comes when each parent has their own entitlement, not when they must compete for the same pool. Mr. Chairman, honorable judges, my most worthy opponents, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Before I get into my substantive points, I will use a few seconds to define some key terms in the motion for us today. Firstly, paternity leave. According to the International Labour Organization, paternity leave refers to a period of leave from work granted to fathers or male partners around the time of childbirth or adoption to care for their child and support the mother. Secondly, a shared pool of parental leave refers to a combined total amount of leave that both parents can share between. It gives parents the flexibility to choose how much leave each one takes, but it draws from the same total time. Having defined these terms, it is clear that this debate centers on two competing approaches to family leave policy. On one hand, the government believes that creating a shared pool of parental leave will give families flexibility in deciding how to divide their time off. On the other hand, we in the opposition maintain that directly expanding paternity leave is a more effective, equitable, and culturally appropriate solution. As the opposition, our stance is that expanding paternity leave is a more practical and progressive policy for Jamaica at this time. We will demonstrate that Jamaica's cultural, economic, and social context makes the expansion of paternity leave the more suitable and sustainable approach. As first speaker, I will show that to achieve true equality, parents must have equal independent rights. And secondly, how expanding paternity leave promotes fathers' involvement and strengthens family bond. Our second speaker will show that Jamaica's cultural and historical context makes a shared parental leave practical. And secondly, she will examine the economic efficiency of our proposal in comparison to our opposition. While our third speaker will cement our argument and highlight why our arguments are more sound. Ladies and gentlemen, creating a shared pool of parental leave days does not promote true gender equality. Instead, it risks reducing the time mothers need for recovery and bonding. Expanding paternity leave separately gives both parents their own guaranteed time, which is a fairer and healthier approach for families. The current system, which provides mothers with maternity leave and fathers with a shorter paternity leave, was designed around biological, medical, and social realities. Don't get us wrong, we welcome the expansion of paternity leave. After childbirth, a woman's body requires significant recovery time. Research published by the World Health Organization showed that mothers typically need at least 14 weeks of rest and recovery after delivery. Additionally, studies have found that exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months is vital for an infant's immune system and cognitive development, as noted by the UNICEF 2023. If a shared parental leave were implemented, both parents would have to divide one combined set of days. In practice, this could disadvantage mothers who might feel pressure to return to work early so fathers can use part of the leave. A 2022 OECD study found that in countries with shared parental leave system, women still take about 70 to 80% of the available days, while men take far less due to social and workplace pressures. This demonstrates that shared systems often fail to achieve genuine equality. On the other hand, countries like Iceland and Sweden, which expanded dedicated paternity leave instead of reducing mothers' time, saw a 40% increase in fathers' participation in early childcare and stronger gender balance in the home. This shows that giving fathers their own protected leave is more effective than forcing families to share one pool. Expanding paternity leave separately allows both parents to benefit fully. Mothers retain the support and recovery time they need for physical and emotional well-being, while fathers gain real opportunities to bond with their children and share domestic responsibilities. Therefore, true equality is not about splitting one pool of time. It's about ensuring both parents have equal, independent rights to care for their children without compromising the other's well-being. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, our policy supports mothers and empowers fathers. Everyone benefits when roles are clear and entitlements are guaranteed. Secondly, expanding paternity leave promotes fathers' involvement and strengthens family bond. Honorable judges, while paternity leave was introduced in Jamaica in 2023, it will take years for fathers and society to fully embrace it. Traditional norms still place childcare largely on mothers, and many fathers may feel hesitant to take leave. This is why we must normalize paternity leave first. Only then can a shared pool of parental leave work effectively. So the government must engage in public campaigns, use social media and other forms to educate men and our society about the beliefs of fathers taking paternity leave. My opponents, we cannot build a house on sand. Jamaica must first lay the foundation of normalized paternity leave before we can safely reach for this shared pool. Later on, our second speaker will expound more on this point. Honorable judges, the benefits of expanding paternity leave go beyond individual families. They scale up to national development. Families are the backbone of society, and stronger family units produce more productive, stable, and cohesive communications. Research from the International Labour Organization 2019 highlight that countries with effective paternity leave policies see reduced absentees, increased workforce loyalty, and healthier societal outcomes. By expanding paternity leave separately, we ensure that both parents contribute meaningfully to child raising, which is not only strengthens the household but also boosts national productivity, reduce social stress, and foster long-term economic growth. In Jamaica, where family stress contributes to social challenges, such policies are not just fair but strategically essential for the nation's development. Expanded paternity leave benefits the entire family structure. Fathers develop closer relationships with their children. Mothers receive greater emotional and practical support, and children experience a more nurturing and stable home environment. Ultimately, expanding paternity leave rather than creating a shared pool fosters genuine equality by giving fathers their own space to participate fully in family life, rather than competing for time with the mother. And we rest our case.
Thank you very much, first opposition speaker. I now invite the second, we now enter the first period of cross-examination. So in this segment, we'll have Ocho High School, the opposition team, asking questions first, 3 questions of the proposition team, Montego High School. Each question is limited to 10 seconds, each response limited to 30 seconds. Ocho High School, you may ask your 3 questions now.
Wouldn't a shared pool risk reinforcing traditional gender roles since mothers are still more likely to take the majority of the leave?
Thank you for that question. No, it would not, because we were asking to introduce a system where there is a quota set for each parent, like Sweden, where each parent has 90 days that is unchangeable, and then the remaining 300 can be shared. So whichever is convenient for the family is what would happen with those 300 days.
Secondly, if both parents are drawing from one shared pool, how will you ensure that women do not end up taking the majority of the leave, leaving fathers underrepresented?
So this would be ensured by policies put in place by the government, because as mentioned before, in Sweden, there are policies put in place by the government where, based on the convenience for each family, the mother or the father will decide who will take more of the leave that is remaining other than the amount that is required for each.
And lastly, how would a shared parental leave system be monitored and enforced in Jamaica's current workplace structure?
Thank you for that question. The way in which the policy will be monitored in Jamaica is that legal frameworks will be introduced to monitor. We could also the workers, the parents' rights. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for those questions and answers, Ocho and Montego Bay High School, respectively. We now invite Montego Bay High School, to pose your 3 questions to Ocho High School.
If we expand paternity leave directly, won't men still face stigma for, hold on, my apologies. If we expand paternity leave directly, won't men still face stigma for taking it in a male-dominated workplace?
They would, but consider the fact that this is not a debatable matter. They are being forced to take a certain amount of time off from work, so it would have less impact on the men, and he would see more. It wouldn't seem less in society view.
Can you explain how mandatory paternity leave addresses the gender wage gap?
Okay, I believe that the increase of paternity leave, it will help parents and mothers to see more equal. It will help parents and mothers to see more equal and it will help them to see. Okay. Okay, thank you.
And lastly, if we only expand paternity leave, doesn't that ignore situations where mothers or adoptive parents also need flexible time sharing?
Yes, adopted parents will still need flexible time sharing, even though it's not their birth child. They're still need to develop a connection with this new child, because it's still a child that they have no connection with. So they will need proper time to grow a proper connection with the child.
All right, thank you very much again to both teams for that phase of cross-examination. We continue our debate in the ordinary way. The presentation now from the second proposition speaker coming to us from Montego Bay High School. Here.
Chairperson, adjudicators, members of the audience, and members of the opposition. Good day. I stand proudly with my team in strong affirmation of the motion. The House prefers a policy of a shared pool of parental days to the direct expansion of paternity leave benefits. We wholeheartedly support this notion because it promotes gender equality in both the workforce and the rearing of children. I will speak today regarding 2 points. Those being that the policy provides flexibility for parents and that it promotes equality in career progression. I will be expanding on both, showing why a shared pool of parental leave days is the most practical approach for modern Jamaican families. We live in a very fast-paced and business-oriented society, and because of this, time often slips away unnoticed. Thus, parents are forced to manage demanding jobs with the equally demanding task of raising children. This policy offers a solution. That solution is flexibility. The shared parental leave policy will allow families to decide how to share their leave depending on what works best for them and their family's needs. Flexibility means the ability to adjust based on one's unique circumstances, and that is exactly what this policy allows. Instead of fixed leave days divided by gender, parents can allocate their shared pool based on health, financial situations, or career goals. According to the Global Economy 2024, the percentage of women employed in Jamaica increased from 53.4% in 2000 to 61.3% in 2024. This shows that more women are now entering and remaining in the workplace than ever before. The flexibility of this policy, therefore, aligns with the aspirations of career-focused women, thus enabling them to decide when to return to work while ensuring their children still receive proper care. Additionally, fathers who want to play a more active role in the early rearing of their child or children will finally have the ability to do so. Fathers can take on shared responsibilities instead of being tied down by limited paternity leave days. Mr. Speaker, fathers can then bond with their child in a more sufficient manner and support their partner equally. Mr. Speaker, the opposition might argue that this flexibility could lead to women taking most of the leave and inadvertently reinforcing traditional stereotypes. Therefore, this can easily be avoided by introducing a minimum quota for both parents, ensuring each takes a fair share time off. This will ensure equality in practice and not just in theory. And as mentioned before, we have seen real world success of this type of policy. To add, flexibility also benefits employers and the economy. When parents can organize their leave to be attuned with their needs, workplaces face fewer sudden absences. Thus, productivity is maintained and it can lead to long-term job satisfaction. Now, I turn to our second argument. We believe that this policy promotes equality in career progression. In Jamaica, despite progress, gender inequality in the workplace persists. The World Economic Forum's Gender Gap 2025 reports that Jamaica's economic participation and opportunity score is 0.77, where 1.00 represents full equality. This means that women are about 23% less likely to have equal access to economic opportunities as men. Furthermore, women represent nearly 70% of entry-level and mid-management positions, but less than 20% of executive leadership roles. This shows that while women are participating more in the workforce, they are still being held back from top decision-making positions. One of the biggest reasons for this is maternity and childcare responsibilities. Women still face barriers to advancement, not due to lack of ability, but because of societal expectations around caregiving. The World Bank's Gender Assessment 2023 reports that Jamaican women spend about 18.1% of their daily time on unpaid care and domestic work, compared to 8.2% for men. This imbalance often results in women being overlooked for promotions or falling behind professionally after childbirth. A shared pool of paternity leave days addresses this inequality directly. It gives both parents equal access to leave, so employers cannot automatically assume that only women will take extended time off. Along with this, fathers can stay home to care for their newborns, while women can choose to return to work earlier. All of this without stigma or penalty. Countries like Sweden have proven yet again that when fathers are given equal opportunity and encouragement to take parental leave, workplace equality improves. Women are better able to maintain their career momentum, and families benefit from stronger bonds and shared responsibility. Additionally, it would even the playing field for promotions and career growth. It can also reshape social attitudes. Fathers taking equal caregiving roles normalize the idea that parenting is not a mother's duty alone, but a shared responsibility. Over time, this cultural shift leads to workplaces that value performance over gender and families that operate on true partnership. This motion is not only about time off work, it is about fairness, progress, and balance. It empowers families to make choices that work for them. It ensures that men and women share both the joy and the duty of raising children. And most importantly, it helps create a society where career success is determined by merit, not gender. Chairperson, equality is not achieved through words alone. It is built through policies like this one that treat both parents as equals at home and in the workplace. This policy will promote flexibility and it will promote gender equality. This is the kind of policy that Jamaica needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Second proposition speaker from Montego Bay High School. And I'll call upon the second opposition speaker to deliver their speech, coming to us from Ocho High School. Here.
Mr. Chairman, esteemed judges, my learned opponents, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Honorable judges, expanding paternity leave separately is also a smart step towards reducing Jamaica's gender wage gap? That question was raised by the proposition team earlier, which caught us off guard. One of the main reasons women earn less than men is that they are often expected to take extended time off for childcare while fathers remain in the workforce. When men are given dedicated paternity leave, caregiving becomes a shared responsibility, not a female-only role. This helps employers view both male and female workers as equally reliable and reduces hiring bias against women of childbearing age. According to the International Labour Organization 2019, countries that promote paternity leave have seen measurable progress in narrowing wage gaps as both parents begin to participate more equally in family and professional life. Therefore, expanding paternity leave separately is not just family policy, it is sound economic policy that fosters gender equality and a long-term national productivity. As a second speaker for the opposition, I will take a closer look at Jamaica's current realities. I will demonstrate that Jamaica's historical and cultural context makes a shared pool of parental leave unsuitable at this stage of our national development. Secondly, I will show that the current system, where paternity and maternity leave are separate, is far more practical and beneficial for employers. Judges, Jamaica's cultural and historical realities cannot be ignored. For generations, our families have been matrifocal. Mothers have traditionally been at the center of family life, often raising children with limited paternal involvement. According to research by the Planning Institute of Jamaica 2022, Jamaican women perform a significant portion of unpaid domestic and care work, while men are typically viewed as financial providers. Because of these deep-rooted cultural norms, a shared pool of parental leave would most likely result in mothers taking most or all of the time off, reinforcing traditional gender roles rather than changing them. For example, in many Jamaican households today, even when both parents are present, the mother remains the primary caregiver, responsible for feeding, school preparation, and medical appointments, while the father focuses mainly on providing financial support. This is not simply personal choice, but a reflection of generations of social conditioning. So if both parents were given access to one shared pool of leaving, cultural expectations would still pressure the mother to take most or all of that time, leaving the father reluctant to claim his share. In that sense, the shared system would look fair on paper, but fail in practice. And another important consideration, honorable judges, is how a shared pool of parental leave would apply to adoptive parents. In Jamaica, adoption already involves a lengthy and emotionally demanding process. And the policies surrounding leaves for adoptive parents are still developing. Introducing a shared pool at this stage would create confusion and inequality, as employers may struggle to determine how leave should be allocated between adoptive mothers and fathers, or even single adoptive parents. On the other hand, expanding paternity leave separately provides fathers with a clear entitlement, one that empowers them to take time off without depending on or reducing the mother's leave. This approach encourages social change in a realistic and culturally sensitive way, helping families adjust to the new norms of shared responsibility without creating tension or guilt about who's using the leave. By respecting Jamaica's cultural foundation while promoting gradual progress, the direct expansion of paternity leave can reshape social attitudes and foster a new generation of involved fathers. This policy builds equality through empowerment, not competition, allowing fathers to step up as active caregivers and mothers to receive the rest and recovery they need. Over time, such a balanced approach strengthens family unity, enhances child development, and supports Jamaica's broader vision of social transformation and gender equity. Now, honorable judges, let us not overlook Jamaica's economic realities. Paternity leave was only introduced in 2023, just over a year ago. And as discussions continue to expand this benefit to the private sector, encouraging private sector companies to embrace paternity leave for their employees, we must consider the economic implications. Small and medium-sized enterprises, which account for over 70% of employment in Jamaica, form the backbone of our economy. Many of these businesses operate with limited staff and narrow profit margins. And remember, my opponents, we want them to come on board fully. We should not complex the situation and the onboarding process for them. Implementing such a system would require significant administrative training, legal adjustments, and increased HR capacity, something many Jamaican companies currently lack. By contrast, expanding paternity leave within the existing framework is simpler, more transparent, and easier to monitor. In conclusion, this approach promotes stability and compliance in the workforce, avoids unnecessary administrative burdens, and still achieves the goal of encouraging paternal involvement. For Jamaica, a developing economy, balancing growth and social reform, gradual and straightforward improvements like expanding paternity leave are far more sustainable than radical overhauls.
Thank you very much for our second opposition speaker. We now move to our second segment of cross-examination. The rules for this segment are just the same as those that applied in the first instance of cross-examination. So with that in mind, I now call upon Ocho High School to ask their questions of Montego Bay High School for girls. Here.
We are still awaiting the development of the policy that our opponents said will be put in place to monitor this new proposal.
May I have a question, please? Not a statement, a question.
We know the development of the policy that our opponents said will be put in place to monitor this new proposal.
Thank you for that question. You asked what policy will be put in place to monitor it. First, we would have to input a policy that would be directly into the different workplaces in the country that would be able to overview that all paternity leave days and maternity leave days are followed. Along with that, we can also do an overview to ensure that the women who are taking the additional leave are not taking over 50%, therefore allowing a more equal share of the paternity and maternity leave days.
Ocho, your second question to Montego Bay High School.
Given Jamaica's cultural norms where mothers are traditionally seen as primary caregivers, what evidence can you present that fathers would usually use the shared leave rather than letting mothers take it all?
Okay. Thank you again for that question. Firstly, you mentioned what events we have. Firstly, you mentioned multiple examples of different countries, European countries who are flourishing in their development. And as was said before, Jamaica is now moving towards not as traditional as it was before. Most of the modern families do not adhere to such conventions. Therefore, we can look to more developed countries as aspirations that we can model to better our country. Thank you.
If fathers are not guaranteed their own leave, how does your shared system ensure real gender equality instead of simply reinforcing traditional gender roles?
Thank you for that question. So in the policy that we pushed forward, we stated that in the shared leave, each parent was guaranteed a set minimum of days. Like Sweden, we had a set minimum of 90 days for each parent. So each parent would have a set minimum that is not that you cannot change, and then the remaining days will be shared and divided how they see fit.
All right. I believe that's the final question from Ocho High School. We now go to Montego Bay High School to hear their three questions. Here.
If your goal is equality, wouldn't equal access to a shared pool achieve that faster than incremental paternity reforms?
Absolutely not. Thank you for that question, by the way. Absolutely not. As we said before, a shared leave will implement a shared leave will not allow us to have equality. Instead, the father is more likely to not take over most of the time that is in the shared pool. And
Thank
most
you,
likely.
Speaker.
Thank you.
Montego Bay High School, you may proceed with your second question.
In societies where caregiving roles are changing, wouldn't shared leave better adapt to modern families?
No, it would not. Because as a second world country, we are more facilitated with traditional roles, and we need a gradual change and not a straightforward change. Thank you.
So how does giving men fixed leave rather than changing the system already existing for mothers promote family flexibility?
Fathers having a fixed pool would allow them to be able to also have that time of bonding with their children instead of just having to share it with their mothers, and that would not allow them to have a bad conscience.
Thank you, Speaker.
All right. Thank you very much, Montego High School, for those questions. Thanks as well to Ocho High School for those responses. We'll now pause the debate for 1 minute to allow you to gather your thoughts and get ready for the exciting reply segment. Please be reminded that the first reply speaker we'll hear from is the opposition reply speaker from Ocho High School, and then the debate will conclude overall with the reply speaker from Montego Bay High School. Your 1 minute begins now.
Yes, actually, you're not gonna get up early tomorrow. You do?
Jermaine, your microphone is still unmuted, so you could just mute, please.
Okay, I think we have exhausted the 1 minute pause. It is now time for us to resume. At this time, let us make welcome the reply speaker from Team Ocho High School, representing the opposition stance on this motion. Hear, hear.
Mr. Chairman, honorable judges, my opponents, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My first and second speakers have already laid the foundation of our case, and now I have the honor of bringing this matter to a close on the opposition benches. Our first speaker showed that to achieve true equality, parents must have equal independent rights. He also provided concrete evidence showing that expanding paternity leave promotes father involvement and strengthens family bonds. Our second speaker highlighted that Jamaica's cultural and historical context makes a shared pool of parental leave impractical, and she provided sound arguments showing that the economic efficiency of our proposal in comparison to our opponents. Honorable judges, I must point out that it is clear that my opponent's proposal is rooted in idealism. And while there is nothing inherently wrong with idealism, in this context, realism is far more practical. Jamaica is not another country. We are not Sweden or an island. We have our own historical context, cultural norms, and economic realities. Policies must be designed to work in our society, and unfortunately, the shared parental leave proposal, though well-intentioned, is detached from the practical realities of Jamaican families and workplaces. Judges, we on the opposition benches are not opposed to progress, development, or modernity. Rather, we believe that the right foundation must be built first. By expanding paternity leave directly, we create a system that is fair, functional, and culturally appropriate, allowing Jamaica to move forward confidently and sustainably as a society. Ladies and gentlemen, the first speaker from the opposition argues that a shared pool promotes equality faster. But judges, the reality is Jamaican families are historically matrifocal, with mothers traditionally at the center of caregiving. Perform research from research from the Planning Institute of Jamaica shows that women still perform the majority of unpaid domestic and care work, while men are primary financial providers. Even if a shared pool were introduced, cultural expectations would pressure mothers to take most or all of the leave, leaving fathers hesitant to claim their share. Equality on paper does not guarantee equality in practice. By contrast, expanding paternity leave separately gives fathers a clear entitlement, ensuring they take time off and gradually shifts cultural norms in a realistic and sustainable way. Honorable judges, while our opponents may claim that a shared pool of parental leave will promote gender equality, in reality, it does little to address the wage gap. In Jamaica's cultural context, where mothers are still viewed as primary caregivers, most families would allow the mother to take majority, if not all, of the shared leave. This means women would still be out of the workforce longer than men, continuing the same cycle of lower earnings and slower career progression. Employers would still view women as the riskier hire since they are more likely to use the shared leave, while fathers might feel discouraged from taking time off. The result is not equality, but the reinforcement of traditional gender roles. Only a system that guarantees fathers their own paternity leave can truly balance the scales, changing attitudes and promoting real gender equity in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, third opposition speaker from Ocho High School. Thank you for concluding the opposition's case. We now come to the final speaker in this debate. That is the reply speaker from Montego High School, who stand in proposition of the motion. Let us make that speaker welcome, speaking, of course, for 5 minutes. Here.
Chairperson, members of the audience, members of the opposing team, my adjudicators, good evening. The mood still stands irrevocably pellucid. A need for shared parental leave days is a necessity. Hence, this House believes that it is both parents' responsibility to support the child. Opposition has continued to ignore the solution of a set quota for each parent that is untouchable with the remaining days left to share and divide based on their family's need. Equal leave days, as opposed to the direct expansion of paternity leave, undoubtedly reduces gender discrimination and economic efficiency, and not to mention the career progression that it provides. Mr. Speaker, it is ludicrous to believe that the reason for the wage gap is merely due to women caregiving responsibilities. Women face further discrimination in the workplace, and merely reshaping the policy for the paternity leave will not solve this issue. Opposition seems to have confused themselves. They state that it is difficult to ensure that the pool is equally shared. That is why a reasonable solution can be reinforced, wherein governments can put quotas in place for both parents, for example, 12 weeks for each, and then the rest of the remaining time can be shared based on the family's need. We're not saying that fathers should not have their own entitlements, as their significance in the home is detrimental. However, we're trying to convey that the shared pool promotes collaboration and not competition. Can you imagine children? Babies are not privy to the comfort and bonding between both parents and at birth. The mother isn't privy to having her baby father or the husband tend to her. She's left with all the work because after the allotted days, the father returns to work and the mother's career is still on pause and her parental responsibilities continue? Is it that the system is still cultured to believe that the father's main responsibility is to provide and the mother should be a caregiver? As a society, we strongly need to shift from the traditional idea that a mother is just limited to caregiving duties and the male figure should expand their scope of opportunities. This idea is the root reason why men are being stigmatized in today's society. This is the reason why women cannot get the opportunity to further their career. We are in full agreement with the move. Shared parental policies should be put in place to limit these complexities in our society. When a child is born, it is both a parent's responsibility to be there emotionally, mentally, and physically for that child to foster proper development. Though my opponents, it is not guaranteed that the leave days will actually be split equally. However, equality is about choice, not forced participation. Yes, the direct expansion for paternity leave enforces fathers to break social barriers and, simply put, to promote father-child relationship and bonding. However, the time of expansion is not guaranteed and still might not be efficient for that specific family. Why not? Why not have a policy wherein the parents decide what works best for their family? This is what promotes cohesivity in the home and creates a strong parental and child bonding. According to Paternity and Adoption Leave Jamaica Information Service, January 1, 2023 was the effective date that biological fathers of newborns and newly adopted parents were entitled to 20 working days paternity and adoption leave with pay. On the other hand, according to the Right Maternity Leave Jamaica Observer, are entitled to 12 weeks maternity leave with the option of having her employer extend. As a society, how are we then breaking barriers if women are longer periods at home with a child? Yes, it is true that traditional expectations have made women the default caregivers. And yes, it is true that traditional expectations have made women the default caregivers. It is not fixed and can be reshaped by policy. Even if the expansion does not solve the issue entirely, as the mothers generally take the majority of the leave, it is clear, my opponents, that just extended paternity leave is not effective. It is ludicrous to believe that the state should decide how much time a father should spend with their child. This is why we push that it is the parent's choice. At the same time, laws and policies contribute to these norms, and measuring the extent to which gender inequality is directly embedded in caregiving policies is critical to understanding whether and how governments are playing a role in creating and maintaining gender disparities in the economy more broadly. Studies show globally, women with children ages 0 to 5 have the lowest employment rate, 47.6%, when compared to fathers of children the same age, 87.9%, as well as women and men without young children. Let's promote equality and cohesivity. Opposition, let us not confuse ourselves. Policies should be put in place to enforce the moot. The proposition rests.
Thank you very much, Montego Bay High School, for that final speech in this debate. We, the adjudicators, will now leave to deliberate. We'll return shortly with the results. In the meantime, feel free to hang around and get to know each other. We'll be back shortly. Thank you. Hello, are you hearing me and see? Am I being seen and heard?
Yeah, we can see and hear, Jimmy.
Yes,
Good,
sir.
thank you. All right, so I know you are probably excited that it's a weekend, but anxiously waiting to hear what the results of this match is. I'll give you a hint. It was a fair debate. We had one team ending with 269. That compares to the winning team's 274 points. To remind you, the motion centered on this question of shared paternity leave, whether or not it's something to be supported. And of course, we had on-site proposition Montego Bay High School. They went up against Ocho Rios High School. Shared paternity leave, what is that? Montego Bay High School tells us that it is there being the establishment of a pool of paternity leave that can be apportioned between the mother and the father as they see fit. We think that that is a reasonable interpretation. And of course, they gave us justification as to why they believe that this is ideal. The justification hinged on the fact that there is a need, and I think both teams are accepted and agreed with this sort of a characterization of what obtains currently, that fathers aren't doing enough and aren't playing a significant enough role in the raising of children, that period, that early stage when the child needs to be bonded with, and the bond developed with the father, that is not being had to any real extent, not with paternity leave being as minimal as it is right now, in the words of Montego Bay High School, the proposition team. And so the solution, according to Montego Bay High School, is really to provide this pool, recognizing as well and appreciating the fact that families need to make a decision that they deem best, but of course that needs to be weighted against the fact that the father's role it needs to be improved in terms of the support for the mother, and of course the bonding and so forth with the child. Okay, so there's a balance in that there, not wanting ultimately to intrude too significantly on the culture and the social norms and values which predominates in favor of mothers. We hear that we exist in a matrifocal family structure. So it says Ocho Rios High School. So not wanting to radically upend that, they felt that the pool paternity leave arrangement would have been a sort of a nice go-between either extremes. Okay. Ocho Rios High tells us that that won't work. It will not work. They say the very societal sort of arrangement, culture and so forth, will not allow for there to be much uptake in the opportunity for fathers to actually bond and support mothers at this most crucial time. They say to us as well that it is important that the culture be respected and regarded. At which point we started to ask ourselves as adjudicators, why is this the case? In as much as what they are articulating, and I'll speak to that a little later, does reflect a deviation from the matrifocal cultural realities that permeates the Jamaican society. And we shift immediately now to that question, the matriarchal arrangement. Both teams agree that that is the case. I think there's a stronger articulation of a concern with respect to that from team proposition, but importantly as well, the opposition team contends that proposition's mechanism is too radical in terms of shaking that up. Yet they come with an arrangement that we contend as a panel also deviates significantly from this kind of cultural sort of arrangement that exists now in the Jamaican society. Two questions we have at this point in time. One, we're not sure that, certainly we don't understand why sort of maintaining systems that adhere to the cultural norms and values, why that is so important, why it is so critical, why, if this seems, at least on the surface, to be a bad arrangement that exists, why should we not change it up? Except to say, Ocho Rios argues as well that in their world, they don't see meaningful resolution to this particular issue. Yet again, a sort of an inconsistency of sorts to defend it as being something, or rather to argue that it's something that needs to be changed, but at the same time to argue that changing it is going to be in some way, at least subtly, a bad thing. So again, clearer, more consistent argumentation on that matter would have been helpful. Now, back to what I was on to before, the question of the alternative put forward by Ocho Rios High School Team Opposition. Team Opposition says to us that they would rather a system where there's equal leave provided to mothers and fathers, okay? Which, again, radical deviation from the culture and the society as it is right now. Montego Bay High School points out that we are not likely to have uptake by fathers to this opportunity that's provided to them. Certainly the uptake might not actually materially result in the kinds of supports that are needed from fathers to mothers, and of course opportunities for fathers to bond. At which point, again, a slight inconsistency here, because it sounds to us as the Montego Bay High School is defending setting up a mechanism which provides fathers the opportunity to support mothers and to bond with their children, but at the same time, in response to Ocho Rios' mechanism, are telling us that, well, we're not going to get much solvency to the issues there, not when we extend paternity leave, such that it becomes equal with maternity leave. So again, a lot of sort of lack of clarity and consistency we spotted in this debate, right? Suffice it to say, though, to their credit, Montego Bay High School gives us a litany of examples from Finland and elsewhere where shared pooled paternity leave exists, and in those contexts, they point to significant benefits that are had. Again, the response from Montego Bay High School, from Ocho Rios High School, is that, well, that's Finland, this is Jamaica. We don't think that it will happen in a similar fashion here. Again, it is one thing to tell us, Ocho Rios High, that the examples are not going to be sort of appropriate within our context, but you need to also explain to us why. What is it about Jamaica that causes the benefits that have been accrued in Finland not to materialize here in Jamaica? Right? Again, so that's a criticism of Ocho Rios High. Again, it's also a criticism of Montego Bay High School to sort of lift examples from elsewhere and foist it on the Jamaican context. There needs to be some rationalization of that to show that when it is that we do it here in Jamaica, we will get, roughly speaking, the same results that are of some benefit. Okay? All right, the final point I'll talk about is the matter of the economy. So there was some engagement on the question of the economy. In a society such as Jamaica, where fathers are expected to be the chief breadwinners, are expected to earn, are more predominant in the workplace, it might be a bit of a challenge when it is that, because of an equal maternity and paternity arrangement, the father is forced to leave for an extended amount of time from the workplace. At least in Montego Bay High School's world, the father and mother gets leave up to a point, and then what remains is a pooled leave that the father and mother can negotiate, possibly with the employer, to determine what portion is given to the mother versus the father. We think that that is an arrangement that results in less shock to the economic arrangements, and of course we think that may very well work, particularly if it is that we give credit to questions surrounding culture and economy as being necessary considerations. Okay, so that in a broad sense is how we saw this debate. Those were the broad issues that we contended with, and of course I hope you appreciate the concerns that we had at the end of this debate. Now, again, to remind you, the scores are 269 as compared to 274 points. The winner of this match, I think it's the 10th match in round one of the JCSA High School Debate Competition for 2024 is Montego Bay High School. Congratulations, Montego Bay High School, for winning this match. And of course, the best debater comes to us as well from Montego Bay High School. It is that young lady who did an extremely, well, not an extremely, but a very good job in synthesizing the big questions, the big issues in the debate, and determining for us why it is that her team won the debate. I suspect you are already aware that I'm speaking here of the reply speaker, the third speaker from Montego Bay High School. All right. At this time, I welcome you to unmute your microphone and exchange pleasantries before we close this debate officially.
Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations, Angela. Good job.
You did a good job. You did a really good job.
Yes. And thank you so much, Jermaine Barrett, for your
All right.
tremendous
Now, a word of advice to Rios. Thank you. Thank you very much, Montego Bay High School and Rios High School for being such good sport. To remind you, though, that the second place team in this match possibly has an opportunity to advance. 269 is a fairly decent score. And so I'd encourage you to monitor your emails and whatever other platforms you get information through, so as to determine whether or not you are on to the second round of this competition. Congratulations, Montego Bay High School, on getting and securing for yourself the automatic spot into round 2. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for round 1. Thank you all for being a part of this exciting competition so far. I'm looking forward to having you on board in round 2 when we see some of the more excellent teams out of round 1. Take care.